have already done a 2025 reading goals, but then I realized halfway through my brain fog and my sickness, I actually didn't even prep that correct. I was just being bombarded left and right with these new releases, with these things that I just didn't even realize it. And I'm like, all right, Quinn, you did not do your homework correctly. Time for a redo. I was sick anyways. Let's do this again. I'm Quinn Moone. I write queer fairy tales. I plan absolutely everything. So I have Q1, 2, 3 already allocated. Hopefully signed, sealed, not yet delivered, TBD, with Q4 pending, but I'm sure I'll figure it out on my way and fill it up with a backlog. So let's get started. I have actually been able to adjust my planner. Put up. Maybe in camera, yeah. I added a page where I document my reading backlog, my writing backlog, and it's working fantastically for me. And then this like important date section, I use it to plan my year at a high level, right? So let's go month by month. January, unfortunately, is kind of a wash. And I'm kind of glad because I went down that William Burroughs rabbit hole because of queer. So I'm hopefully in the next week, which is the last week of January, hopefully I'll be speed reading through some of his bibliography. And speed reading because I just don't have the time to like sit there and dig into it because I got stuff planned for the next like 6 to 9 months. I was not counting on William Burroughs sneaking up on me like this. It happened. I'm allocating a week. Let's see what we can do. And I also don't want to have to like update my journal with a sad one book for the month of January just because I was sick for the first 2.5 weeks. Month of February. I will be posting, have posted, will be posting. I'm not sure yet. I have to figure out the timeline. The month of February is going to be pre-game prep for March, which is March of the Mammoths. So the main theme for the month of February is prepping for the Tale of Genji. So for the month of February, the Tale of Genji Reader's Guide, because you got to start somewhere when the book you're reading is the first novel ever written. It was written like thousands of years ago and you are over 100,000 times removed from what was happening. So you need a little bit of help, especially if you're reading about myself like I am. So I'll be reading the Reader's Guide. Because during my research, I also learned that most of the writers during the Heian period of Japan were women. I checked out the Northern Anthology of World Literature because I want to read more texts by these women that were contemporaries of Lady Murasaki. So I'll be reading excerpts from the Pillow Book, excerpts from the Tales of Heike, and maybe a little bit of poetry. I will also be reading the Tale of Genji Legends and Paintings, as well as the visual companion to the Tale of Genji to supplement art references. This, I think, is a collection of paintings inspired by the Tale of Genji, and I think they're broken up by chapter. I don't know yet. I'll have to figure it out. But this is on the list, as well as the visual companion. I will be reading this collection of essays. It's 350 pages, so that's 2, 4, 6, about 10-ish essays. So this collection of essays will be supplement to the Tale of Genji, obviously. I'm going to be reading this in the month of February. I'm really excited. I've read other modern critical interpretations in this series, and I think they're fine. I'm excited to get through these essays and just gather my thoughts. But because I love Norton Critical Editions, I got the Norton Critical Edition, and we'll be reading the supplemental text in the month of February. This is also a great segue to what I will be reading in the month of March. For the month of March, I will be reading the Tale of Genji for March of the Mammoths. It is 1,175 pages, so just barely over 1,000, but dense enough that I'm only reading one. You know, we're going for depth, not breadth. The focus for March is the Tale of Genji. I will also have all of these other reading companions. I'll have notes, essays, theoretically, and other jazz that I will have put together. But the focus for March is the Tale of Genji. This is kind of where it all went sideways. Originally, April and May were looking kind of empty until I realized that Emily H. Wilson, who wrote the Sumerians trilogy, I will get to that, and Ken Follett, who wrote the Kingsbridge series, are having 2 new book releases this year. I didn't realize that Ken Follett was publishing a new book, nor was Emily H. Wilson completing the Sumerians trilogy. Therefore, for the month of April, my focus is going to be the Epic of Gilgamesh. I will be rereading these 2 translations. I haven't finished this one. I have finished this one. This is the Penguin Classics translation, and then this is Stephen Mitchell's translation. Y'all, if you don't know Stephen Mitchell's translation, this one's spicy. Like, I didn't realize how spicy Gilgamesh could be until I read this guy's translation. So I'll eventually finish it, which should be the focus in the month of March. No, the month of April. I will also be reading the Norton Critical Edition of the Epic of Gilgamesh, obviously. So I will be purchasing that book and reading it for the month of April. What started this whole Epic of Gilgamesh month was this book, Inanna by Emily H. Wilson. This is part of the Sumerians trilogy. And there is already a second one, which is called Gilgamesh. And then the third book is called Ninshbar, which is releasing in August. I am all about the Bronze Age. I'm all about ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece. My bread and butter is the ancient world. How did I sleep on this? So I'll be reading Inanna in the month of April, as well as Gilgamesh. In the month of April, I will be buying that one. In addition to the Epic of Gilgamesh itself. Sidebar, I'm a writer. I write a bunch of queer stuff. I read a bunch of queer stuff. I think Gilgamesh and Enkidu are talking to me, and I think I'm about to go on a decades-long research binge of ancient Mesopotamia and tell the story of Gilgamesh and Enkidu. I'm realizing I think this just happened in my life this year, so this will probably be a recurring theme year over year. I will eventually have a lot of stuff about the Epic of Gilgamesh. Thank you, Emily H. Wilson. But that's April. A lot of ancient Mesopotamia. It is the month of ancient Mesopotamia. The month of May is now allocated to historical fiction. I had been contemplating reading historical fiction for the month of May anyways, because June and July are Bronze Age months, but this was kind of forced when Ken Follett is releasing a new book in September. The month of May is going to have 2 rereads, and I'm going to finish a third. I'm going to be rereading a book that is so near and dear to my heart, The Pillars of the Earth. I read this for the first time when I was 20 years old. I was sick. My first boss said, "Quinn, you're sick. I see that you're going to be bedridden for a week. Take this book and don't give it back to me until you're done, because it's great and you need to read it and tell me how great it is as well." Yes, that's exactly how she said it, and I love her for it. This book has defined my entire reading identity since I picked it up. I read almost exclusively historical fiction for the last decade, and I've only in like the last 6-ish years picked up like queer historical fiction and gone down the queer path. But for almost 10 years, I read almost exclusively historical fiction of the 1600s and earlier because of Pillars of the Earth. The Pillars of the Earth is the reason that I went down a Borgia rabbit hole as well in the Italian Renaissance. This book is one of the most influential books of my life, and I had been meaning to reread it, and I cannot think of a better reason to reread it than to set up for a new release by Ken Follett. So I'll be rereading The Pillars of the Earth. I might be getting a hard copy, I'm not sure, because this isn't even annotated. This is pre-annotation Quinn. I don't even know what that looks like anymore. So I want to go back, reread it. I want to highlight it. I want to ponder it. And I can't wait to experience this book all over again, because it has been, gosh, about 15 years at this point. Super excited. I will then be following it up with the sequel, World Without End. This is when I first started annotating it. So this book came out, right? This is a chunky book, and I know myself. If I like a book, I get lost in it. I requested time off that year, 6 months in advance. I took Thursday and Friday off so that I could have a 4-day weekend, and I spent it reading. Look at that. Look at that baby annotation. This is gonna get an overhaul, and it's gonna be gorgeous. Well, for me, gorgeous anyways. And that was the first time my boss asked me. She says, "Oh, are you doing something fun?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm reading." She's like, "At the beach?" I'm like, "No, at home. The beach is distracting." I planned out my lunches. I pre-made all of my sandwiches. I set alarms to get water. I was so serious about this book. Like, I am so excited. So World Without End is also gonna be near and dear to me. Loved it. Karis and Merthin. Stop. I'm so excited. And this one, wow, I'm actually pretty far through it. I'm 75% of the way through. Why did I stop? I, for some reason, stopped. So I'll be resuming this and finishing it. I was annotating this one. Let me see. Did I annotate the chapters? No, hold up. I didn't mark exactly where all of the chapters started. That might have been a bit of overkill. I was still using tabs at the time. But for each chapter, I did have a summary. And I have like, I do this now in all of my books. I have point of view, setting, and then like word of the chapter just to understand like the theme all at a glance. So I'll be wrapping this one up. I'm not going to restart it. I know exactly what happens in it. One of my favorite Ken Follett characters is in this. He's a monk he's a gay monk. And he loves learning, and all he wants to do is be a theologian and study. I'm just like, man, this is me if I was a monk. I'll be finishing this book the month of May as well. All of this to set up for the Ken Follett book in September, which I will get to. For the month of June, we will be in Bronze Age month. So June and July every year for the last 3-ish years have been focused on researching the Bronze Age. All of this triggered by the Song of Achilles. Thank you, Madeline Miller. So this June, I will be reading the Oxford Handbook of the Bronze Age Aegean. This is literally an encyclopedia of the Bronze Age. I am so thoroughly excited. I mentioned the whole Gilgamesh and Enkidu becoming like a pet project. This has been a project since I first read the Song of Achilles. So I'm spending the next decade-ish to learn about the Bronze Age, to learn about Troy, to learn about the Aegean, because my English major self is not about to go and offend everybody that has dedicated their entire life to studying this. So I'm taking my time to build out this world, and I want to do my own Iliad retelling. It's gonna be different than the Iliad, I already know that, but I need to know what was happening in the world. I need to understand the world to be able to write it successfully. I'm also budgeting 500,000 to 750,000 words for that one book. Likewise with the Epic of Gilgamesh retelling, that one's also getting 500,000 to 750,000 words. I need to learn a lot about these time periods for me to give a good worldview about it, right? So I will be reading the Oxford Handbook of the Bronze Age in June. It's 800-ish pages, so I'm pretty sure if I allocate enough time, I'll be able to get through it. This was edited by Eric H. Klein, which also wrote the other book I'm going to be reading, 1177 BC, the year civilization collapsed. He also wrote the sequel, The Recovery of the Collapse of Civilization. I don't have the title in front of me, shame on me. But I will be reading these two, much smaller, although I don't, you know, I learned my lesson. Just because they're small doesn't mean they're not dense. Much smaller, probably just as dense about the collapse of the Bronze Age, but I'll be reading these two for that month as well. I might read other stuff, but these are like the focus. We get to July. July is going to be specifically about the Trojan War. The Trojan War, I've learned over the last couple of years of research, is very vague because of Troy, because of the politics and economics and the global trade systems in place. Troy was an odd duck of a civilization. So July is to start unpacking Troy, the history of Troy, the Trojans, the Trojan relationship with the rest of the world's relationship with Troy. So I will be reading The Trojan War, A New History by Barry Strauss. I've actually read a couple books by Barry Strauss and I like him as a historian. I might have other books by Barry Strauss. Actually, hold up. Where did my Medici book go? I just reorganized my shelves, so I'm not entirely sure where that would be. Aha, Medici, over here. Oh, Christopher Hibbett. JK. Barry Strauss has come up though a couple times. So let's see what else he's written. And then I'm also gonna read The Fall of Troy, or the Trojan Epic, by Quintus of Smyrna. This cover is kind of just awful. I actually might just chuck it because that's an awful cover. But it's written by an ancient historian, apparently. Hold up, let me see. Composed in the 3rd century AD. This is an older documentation of the Trojan War. So I will be reading it. Also on the docket are books I'm actually really excited about. I want to read The War That Killed Achilles by Caroline Alexander. And I want to read the Bloom criticisms of the Iliad. There are 2 versions of these. So I'll be buying both of these for the month of July to read them. I don't have a really big backlog. I mean, you know, I do, but this isn't like I'm reading an encyclopedia, right? So for the month of July, I'm hoping I can get through at least 1,500 to 2,000 pages So we'll see where I budget that. Let's flip back to my annual view. Then we get to August. August will be the month that Kingfisher releases a new book, which I must read, called Hemlock and Silver. I only realized this because one of the booktubers that I follow, she brought it up, and I'm just like, how did I not know about this book? Granted, I haven't read the last book of Kingfisher. Shame on me. I need to just read everything Kingfisher writes. She's amazing. In August, Hemlock and Silver comes out. I will be reading it that month. I'm so excited. So I need to pre-order it in like June, July. And then for the month of August, Ninja Bar by Emily H. Wilson comes out. That is the last book in the Sumerians trilogy. Whether I think the trilogy is fantastic or awful, I will probably read it because so few people write about ancient Mesopotamia. So August is going to be 2 new releases, and I didn't really have anything else planned. So kind of glad they came in and added some structure to my year. And then in September, y'all, Ken Follett is releasing a book about Stonehenge. Stonehenge. That is my bread and butter era. That's early civilization. It's a book that doesn't take place during like the medieval times or anything like that. Ken Follett is writing a book called Circle of Days about Stonehenge. I'm so excited. Actually, I don't know if I requested time off for that. I should get on that. I'm so excited. A book about Stonehenge. There might be others out there, but Ken Follett is a masterful storyteller. If he wrote it, it's gonna be gold. I am so excited for that book. And that made me like rethink my entire backlog. For the months of October, November, December, actually, I don't have anything. Probably take some stuff off my shelf that's, you know, been there for too long and I just haven't read. But I do have a few books in translations that I know already are gonna break my heart. I don't have the descriptions here, but The Unworthy, I'll put it on here, is coming out in March. Separate Rooms comes out in April. And then We Do Not Part by Hong Kong was also on here. I'm listening to an audiobook right now. These books just already seem heavy. And I'm excited. And I'm excited to read them. But those are going to be books that I just have to like add in there, Jenga it, maybe in the last quarter, because, you know, might not have enough heartbreak by then. Those are my priority reads for 2025. You know, I thought I had some months off. I do not. I have something allocated for almost every month. And the month of October and November, depending on how my habits pick up as far as like my reading and my recording and my editing, I might try to read Dracula and Frankenstein in October, November. Because all the other months are already allocated. But I do want to read those, and they are on my Norton Critical Edition shelf down here. We'll see. October just kind of seems on point for Dracula. I have a bunch of supplemental text for Dracula as it is. That might be the book for October. I'll pencil it in literal pencil. And then November, December, I'll just kind of play it by ear. November, December gets a little hectic for obvious reasons. This is a much better video of what my priority reads for the month of 2025 are. The last one was very like, I think I have a book that I want to read this month, sort of, not really. This is much more structured. I have it written down. I have it planned. I have like a section of like books to buy so that I don't have to buy everything all at once, but I can budget it as I go. My partner is very proud, very happy and very proud of me. So super excited about 2025. It's going to be a hectic reading year. It's going to be a dense, wonderful reading year. And I'm going to document it all via vlogs so I can reference it. I'm going to write essays. Hopefully I'm going to take notes. And I'm trying to spin up Notion so that I can have somewhere structured to keep all of my stuff. And then, like, you know, if anybody cares, maybe they want to care, you guys can read it. But, you know, it's just that's just me being delusional that anybody would care about what I think. But that's okay. Here to document my process for 2025, I will leave a list. I'm also gonna probably link all of this. I'm trying to get like affiliate links stuff set up because I don't see a lot of people talking about that. I had to do so much digging to get to some of these texts, especially like supplemental texts. You got to do quite a bit of digging to get to, you know, the niche stuff that I look up. But I want to share it, so I'm really excited. Oh, And in April, the month of the Epic of Gilgamesh, I have requested an interlibrary loan from my library called Gilgamesh Among Us. And it is a collection of Gilgamesh throughout history. And there's one section of Gilgamesh as like a queer icon, but not queer in like the traditional he is gay queer or bisexual queer. More of Gilgamesh as like back when sexuality wasn't a thing, right? Back when the king, because Gilgamesh, I guess sidebar, Gilgamesh slept with everybody. It didn't matter. Back when it didn't matter who your partner was, back when it didn't matter who you bedded versus who you loved. So I really want to see what that text is and if it's good, because Epic of Gilgamesh is turning into something really big in my life. I might purchase it, but I don't want to purchase it yet. I have to figure it out. That's also happening in April. Should probably kick this back into that section of the video. Okay, late, super late. However, much more valuable and comprehensive. Have you read any of the books that I want to read this year? If you have, let me know. If you have any more supplemental context or supplemental texts for the Bronze Age, for ancient Mesopotamia, the Epic of Gilgamesh, any cool retellings. There is a book I'm going to check out from the library about like Noah before the flood. So the Epic of Gilgamesh is believed to have obviously inspired everything that came after it, because it is the original narrative. Before that, it was all like spoken word. But I'm excited for any recommendations, anything that you guys think I should read, any other essay collections or research collections or professors or journals that you think I should read. I am here for it. So let me know in the comment section below. Let me know if I'm like way too nerdy for like the average person. That is okay. I love myself the way I am. And that's it for this video. I will catch you guys next time. And I am hoping to actually meet my goals. So hopefully come December 2025, I'll be like, I totally hit every single one of these books. So we'll see. Bye.